and welcome to the OVERDRIVE Digital Show. It's been quite a week for electric vehicles. Let's start the show, of course, with Kia's electric journey in the Indian market. It has started with the EV6, a product that challenges premium brands with its long range, quirky features, and creature comforts. But is this the EV you want to put your money on in the country today? Let's find out.
So while the world-famous Tesla is still contemplating, still testing the Model 3, the Model Y for the Indian market, their Korean rival is already here. Say hello to the Kia EV6. So the EV6 marks Kia's onslaught of electric vehicles, at least for the Indian market. And the 6 in the name should tell you that this is not going to be just one vehicle. There are going to be other vehicles that will be added to the portfolio. It's not just the name that sounds fit for a concept car, but also the design. It looks like it came straight out of a show floor. It still has the tiger nose, but very subtle. But I love the aggression of the face. Kia's new Opposites United design theme is radical from head to toe. And while it's hard to say which is the prettiest angle for this car, I think I find the rear three-quarter the most appealing, with the seamless lighting signature, the floating panels, and the roof spoiler. In fact, Kia too seems to be obsessed with this angle, so they even put a light in the spoiler that highlights the haunches. They call it the silhouette lighting, and the silhouette of the car will have you debate about the body style. Hatch, SUV, fastback. I think I would just call it crossover, much like the Jaguar I-Pace. Even the design and the layout of the boot reminds me of the I-Pace and is good for a couple of suitcases. Yeah, 520 liters of boot space may not sound like a lot for a car that looks this large, but where they have spent most of that space is right here in the cabin. They've nicely stretched out that wheelbase, and that gives you a lot of legroom. I mean, just look at the kind of legroom that I have. Who needs a luxury crossover? But between those two wheels is this big battery pack, and because batteries usually sit in the floor in EVs, they are quite high. So you sit in a bit of a knees up position, so the under thigh support is a bit compromised. Also, if you are over 6 feet tall, this headroom may not be good enough, especially because of the way the headliner curves in. Otherwise, for an average sized person like me, not a problem at all. On similar lines, you have a completely flat floor because no transmission tunnel. You also have a fairly wide center seat. So seating 3 abreast should be reasonably comfortable. Speaking of charging times, the EV6 supports 400 volt as well as 800 volt charging systems and has a fast charger support for up to 350 kilowatts. Such high-speed chargers aren't available in India as easily just yet. But when they are, the EV6 can go from 0 to 80% in around 18 minutes. Standard 50 kilowatt fast chargers would need about an hour more. Now here's another interesting bit. The EV6, you can treat it like a power generator or a big power bank, call it whatever you want. You see this little adapter here? This is called a vehicle to load adapter. Essentially what that gives you is a 3-pin plug. So this is like a big battery pack, the car, and this is like a 3-pin plug, so you can literally power whatever you want. Everything from a microwave to a mixer, maybe get yourself a drink while you're on your journeys, make yourself a shake if you want to. Or not just that, you can also use this 3-pin plug to charge another electric vehicle using AC charging. How cool is that? So this is not just an EV, but also a power bank on wheels. Think about it. Of course, we are here at a racetrack. There are no potholes or undulations to talk about, apart from one little undulation on this long straight at the BIC. But Kia tells us that they have retuned the suspension for the Indian road conditions. Also, the ground clearance is 178 millimeters. That's almost SUV territory for a lot of people out there. A lot of crossovers that claim to be SUVs. This is right up that alley. So 178 millimeters is not bad. Of course, with those 19-inch wheels, you will have to be aware of the potholes. You'll have to be a little careful of the potholes, of the bad roads. But once you're aware of them, it should be easy to tackle all of them, to negotiate them with this car. As you'd expect, there are paddle shifters, and they of course don't change any gears in an electric vehicle. What they do is give you different levels of regenerative braking, 4 levels of it. And on the highest level, you get what Kia likes to call the I pedal. There's also a plus sign on the accelerator pedal. What it essentially tells you is, with that single pedal, you can do most of your driving. It will also come to a complete halt if required. Let me demonstrate that to you now. I'm going to go to Regen level 4. It's gone to max. No vehicles around us. It's a safe environment. We are at 30 and I'm off the accelerator pedal. And there. It comes to a complete halt. 0 kmph. Not even crawling. So you can do a complete single pedal driving if you really want with that I pedal. 4th level of regen. Kia hasn't compromised on the safety. For the kind of money that they are asking you, they are actually brimming this car with features, some of which even the luxury crossovers don't get, like ADAS functionality, for example. There is a fair bit of ADAS kit on this car. That's a very good news. The chassis of the EV6 comprises of 63% high-strength steels, and the cabin is secured with standard 6 airbags, or optional 8. So the drive mode switch is right here on the steering. I think it's very ergonomically placed, very conveniently placed. You can quickly cycle through the 3 driving modes. You have normal, you have eco, and you have sport. So obviously we've been trying out the sport mode here quite often on the racetrack. And what the sport mode essentially does is, of course, all these 3 modes are self-explanatory. You guys already know about it. But the sport mode will not only give you much quicker responses, but will also give you much quicker braking response. The braking times, the braking distances are much lesser with this mode compared to the normal mode. We haven't been able to put it to the test in terms of the actual numbers, but we've sort of tested all of this. Now we can't really demonstrate it to you because there are other vehicles on the track that are shooting. But there is a significant difference. Let me tell you that. There's a significant difference in the way the braking manners are in the 3 different modes. Of course, regenerative braking is also working. You can also set the 4 levels like I showed you. But the physical brakes also are a lot more aggressive in that sport mode. I also like the way the steering has been weighted. It's quite nice, especially in the sport mode. It weighs up really well. And even in the eco, the normal modes, it's not overtly light. It doesn't feel artificial. It still has that sporty edge to it, just the way the suspension has that sporty edge, that little bit of firmness to it, which tells you that this is at the end of the day an enthusiast car despite being a long-range EV. The EV6 features a 77.4 kWh battery pack, which can be had with a 229 PS single motor configuration or a 325 PS dual motor configuration, which makes it an electric all-wheel drive. Now the claimed range for this car, WLTP, is 528 kilometers. And knowing how lenient the ARAI is with such test figures and such mileage figures for EVs, I'm sure it could be well over 600 kilometers with the area figures. I think a realistic range of about 350 to 425 should be achievable on this car. That's my estimate. I'm not very sure. We haven't road tested this car. But once we do, we'll be able to confirm that. Hopefully, we'll be able to do a longish road trip with this car like we did with the other EVs. They're only limiting this car to 100 units for now. And I think it's going to sell out pretty quickly. Looking at the way the vehicle looks, performs, behaves, I think those 100 units are going to be sold out like that. To put things into perspective, a 5.2 second 0 to 100 sprint makes it quicker than the Porsche Taycan. A drag coefficient of 0.28 makes it more aerodynamic than the Jaguar I-Pace. Its claimed range is better than all the Audi e-trons. And it comes at a price tag comparable to a Mercedes-Benz C-Class. It's a halo car for Kia in that sense, and a rolling demonstration of what one can expect from Kia's electric vehicles going forward. Well, to sum it up, I think let's put it this way. This is like a Jaguar I-Pace on a budget. Of course, it's not a cheap car at the asking price. It is competing with the luxury crossovers. But then if you think about it, right now at least, it has no competition. The other electrified vehicles are either much lower in the segment or much higher in the segment. And this is at a beautiful midpoint where Kia is just unrivaled for the EV6. But forget the rivals, in terms of its pure performance, it's just put a wide smile on my face. Not just here on the racetrack. I'm sure that this kind of performance is going to be equally good even out there in the city, even out there in the urban environment, because no matter what driving mode you're in, that performance is always there. It's on tap. And then the whole attribute of electric vehicles, the long range, the quick charging times, it's all there. It is right up the order in terms of the technology. So all things considered, I think you could seriously consider this as a very good alternative to other luxury crossovers that are still running petrol and diesel engines. Let that sink in. In fact, as of May 2022, I'm actually going to go ahead and say that this is the electric car to buy in India at the moment. It's that good, an all-rounder.
Well, as Rohit mentioned, 100 units are allocated for India and bookings are already open. So if you're in two minds, might be a good idea to book a test drive soon. Let's get Bert on the show and Rohit as well. Hi, Bert.
Hi, Sohini.
Rohit.
Hi, Bert. Hello, everyone. I hope you guys can hear me.
Can hear you, but can't hear Bert. Bert, you're on mute.
Hi guys, hi. I'm here as well. Sorry, I was on mute. But good evening, everyone out there who's watching. And Rohit, Sohini, well, it's been a couple of weeks since we have come back to this, so feels good to be back on the live show.
And what a week, because people have been waiting for the Kia EV6 review. People have been, there's been a lot of talk about it, and both of you have driven it on the track. So any additional observations?
That from my perspective, I think a few of the features that Rohit spoke about, it's a feature-rich car. First of all, let's put it that way. Not only does it have, not only will it have fairly large range, and I'm presuming that this will be upwards of about 320 to 350 kilometers of real-world range that you would get, which will drop if you get out on the highways and you do interstate driving. That will drop considerably. But in urban areas, you will get fairly good range. 77.4 kilowatt hour battery, that's a fairly large battery. Keep in mind, 75 kilowatt hour is where the Mercedes EQC is at. 80 or thereabouts is where the I-Pace is, and 85 is where the e-tron is. We just did that story also with the comparison between those three cars to those winter conditions earlier this year. And in light of those three cars, with the EV6, you've got a fairly large battery pack. In fact, it'll be one of the most, how would I say this, range efficient cars from a brand that is not considered to be a luxury brand in the country, and more mass market for that matter. Will be very interesting to see how Kia prices this car, because we recently saw the pricing for the BMW i4, and that is at 70 lakhs. And the i4 has got just about an 80 kilowatt hour battery. So very, very closely contested between that car's range and what it does. So if a luxury car can find itself, the equivalent, let's say, of a 3 Series or a C-Class sedan, can find itself at that 70 lakh rupee price bracket, then I'm assuming Kia should be able to price this significantly more competitively than that estimated 60 lakh bracket. I'm hoping they can come below that, but you never know. Let's see what happens. There are a lot of other features also. I mean, this is something that is quite interesting for tech. For people who are interested in tech, for that matter. There is just so much of information and so many things to do inside the EV6 that it completely amazed me. And I posted about it also, but it will take a lot of owners a lot of time to understand how to use this car and what's to be done with it, and the kind of the various menus that you have to go through and kind of set up your car before you actually start driving it. It's a humongous, the volume of data that is there on that is just huge. And there are some really funky things also. I mean, the storage bin, because you don't have a transmission tunnel, the storage bin under the gear lever, the gear selector knob, that circular selector knob, 4 stages of recuperation, 4 stages of regeneration. Nobody in the country offers 4 stages of regeneration as of now. And that is amazing. Then you've got the relaxation seats, which are also pretty cool. The seats just kind of, fold down, and you're able to kind of relax if you're charging the car. So all of these things make it fairly, how would I say it, that value is there with the product. You'll just have to work on the pricing.
I want to ask you something, just because you mentioned it. about the reclining seats, and you said that you can relax while you're charging it. But given that this is a car that can charge, say, really quickly with a DC fast charger, would you need it? Or are
So
these
really, yes,
small
actually
gimmicks that
we
are
will.
coming in?
So really quickly, yes, it can take up to 800 volts of charging. It is not, however, that's what the car can take, but it will also depend on what the charging station is able to provide. So not all DC chargers are extremely fast chargers. DC charging, yes, will give you seamless, quicker charging than the Type 2 AC, of course. But like we went on our drive, we went up to Sundarnagar and where we tried to charge at the cafe. The charging, even though it is a DC, it is only 30 kilowatt charger. So 30 kilowatt, I mean, you just do this simple math if you had to do it. I mean, 70 kilowatt, 70 or 80 kilowatt hour, almost an 80 kilowatt hour battery would take you about 2.5 hours to charge that battery. So 2.5 hours is good enough time for me to take a nap. Most of the electric vehicles, most of the charging stations across the country also at this point in time, they're not all fast chargers, not going up to 60 kilowatt for that matter. They're effectively in the range of 25 to about 50 kilowatt. Here's another thing that is going to be very interesting. What Kia is going to be developing is that they are going to be putting 180 kilowatt chargers at a few of their dealerships across the country. It's not going to go everywhere, but a few of them are going to get 180 kilowatt charging stations. This is significantly fast charging. They had installed this charger at the BIC for the media drives, and the cars were charging in about half an hour. They were not even half an hour, in about 15 minutes, they were getting up to about 80% charge. All in all, they're taking about 30 minutes or so to get a full charge, 100% charge if they had to. But I mean, of course, the charge was restricted to 80% for better usage and all that purposes. But they were doing it in absolutely no time. So in those cases, if you got a charging station that will take your charging speeds up to about 150 or 180 kilowatt, then yes, you possibly may not need the reclining seats, those relaxation seats as Kia calls them. But for all other purposes, you will certainly need those relaxation seats.
Okay, there's one more question that I have. We saw your Instagram post about the vehicle to load feature. Now, it's very interesting what you've explained, that you can, charge certain appliances and stuff like that. But what is more interesting is the trickle charge that it allows another electric vehicle. But just to, like, for someone like me, I'm just trying to understand this feature. In your normal fuel cell cars, we would put in like an adapter. Not an adapter. What was it called? Sorry, what was the thing called? When we would go out on shoots and we wanted to charge, say, our laptops or our
Converters.
cameras and stuff like that. A converter.
Converters.
A
Yeah.
converter.
No, so the
Is it?
Kia that the EV6 that we're getting in India will be running, will be providing full 220 kilowatt facilities. Okay, so your current will be supplied at 220 watts. So that volts, sorry. So that way you will not have an issue. You can plug in any device into it and it will all work. There will be no requirements. There will be no need of putting in a converter like we do on our shots. On our shoots, we will not have to do that. You can, in fact, and this would really work brilliantly in Gurgaon, where half that city, half the time, runs on diesel generators. I mean, you just take your car, plug it into your home mains, and you can technically light up your entire household, function everywhere, and because I mean, we are assuming that power goes out for 8 hours or 10 hours. The EV6 will be able to power almost every device in your house for those many hours. It can power, and this is unofficial, of course, but apparently on tests that Kia has run themselves, they found out that an air conditioner, 1.5 ton air conditioner, can run for well over 24 hours just drawing power from the EV6.
Oh, wow.
That's 24 hours plus. So you can now imagine that, I mean, if you had to plug it into your mains, you'd be able to run your air conditioner. At least one air conditioner inside the house would run if you didn't have power. You could run your television at the same time. You could also operate your laptops, your mixer, your food processors, your microwave ovens, maybe an induction gas stove if you wanted, or whatever you wanted to do for that matter. Your EV6 has got enough of charge. So it is that is a fairly significant development for this segment, because no other EV in the country today offers you the V12 feature. And that makes the EV6 a very, very important thing, a very important car as well, in terms of having this multitude of abilities. You can take it out on camping and take an induction cooktop, take whatever you want and utilize it over there.
Okay. I did have a question about that also, but I'll get back to it. We'll answer some of our viewers' questions. Bhargav wants to know if the Kia EV6 is priced between 50 to 60 lakhs, will it be a tough competition for the i4 and the Volvo XC40 Recharge?
Well, Bhargav, not actually, because you see, in India, car sales don't only depend upon the pricing. For that matter, there is also a status value added to it, and those who want a BMW will still go in for a BMW or for the XC40 Recharge. Now, having said that, I've sat inside the i4, I've seen the interiors, I've felt the whole quality and of the materials, the fit and finish, and everything, and that is significantly more premium than the EV6. Okay, the EV6 isn't bad. That isn't to say the EV6 is bad. The EV6 is all fantastic quality, but you can feel the plastics. Okay, it does not have the kind of premiumness and richness that the i4 has, which is why I'm coming in from this point that i4 BMW have priced it so aggressively. It puts an entire spin on whoever else is entering this market with an EV, because they will now have to rethink how they're pricing their cars for the Indian market.
All right. Rohit, Prabhan wants to know, there are many 5-seater EVs in the market, but when are manufacturers going to give us 7-seater EVs?
Well, I think it's just a matter of time before it happens, Prabhan. It's not going to be too far, because it's difficult to make a smaller EV vehicle. It is relatively easier to make a larger EV vehicle, a larger wheelbase. The longer the wheelbase, the more number of batteries that can sit in that skateboard arrangement, in that floor. So it's actually easier to do that. In fact, we hear right now that the next generation Innova that is likely to come out sometime next year is going to have an all-electric option as well. They're exploring hybrid. They're also exploring an all-electric, is what we hear. It's not confirmed. This is speculation at the moment. But if that happens, well, there you will have it. You will have a mass market 3-row electric vehicle from a trusted brand like Toyota. So it's just an eventuality. It's just about when it will come out, and not if it will come out. It will certainly happen, and it shouldn't be too far.
Rohit, correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But isn't the BYD don't they also already have a 7-seater MPV running on the electric platform?
I'm not very sure. Unfortunately, I've not driven that car, and I've not tested it. But I'm not very sure. Pardon my ignorance here. But yes, it is a large MPV, and you're essentially looking at that kind of a body style with 3 rows as well.
Yeah.
It may not be as tall as a typical Innova at the end of the day, but yes, 3-row MPVs with electric powertrains will happen soon.
But the BYD E6 isn't for the passenger segment yet, right? It's a commercial.
Yeah, it's only for the fleet segment. It's only for the commercial segment. But yeah, the vehicle exists. I mean, it's only a matter of time before they decide to launch it in the passenger space.
Yes.
Neil Sharma seems to be very disappointed in this discussion. He's saying, what a useless discussion. How many Indians can afford it? Do you think it's a useless discussion right now?
No, Neil, I think how you need to look at this, even what I said with my review is, yes, it's an expensive car. I have also gone on record and said that this is the EV to buy right now in the Indian market, and that is this month. In fact, that was last week. Now with BMW bringing in the i4 at that kind of a price tag, like Bert just said, it just completely upsets the market, and it will make other manufacturers think. But how you need to look at the EV6 is this: Kia, Hyundai, this group is looking at bringing in a lot more electric vehicles to the Indian market. EV6 is just one vehicle. The Ioniq 5 that will follow, which is based on the same platform, which will also be on a similar price tag. These are just halo products, and they are essentially going to show you what kind of features you can expect in the smaller Kia and Hyundai electric vehicles. Remember, like we showed you in the review as well, a lot of the features, a lot of the infotainment, a lot of the connected tech that you see inside the EV6 is already available in the Sonet and the Seltos. It's not that it's exclusive to this 70 lakh rupee car. It's already available in the sub 20 lakh rupee cars as well. So it's a no-brainer that this would also come to their low-cost electric vehicles going forward. They are trying to essentially show you what they can achieve with electrification, what Kia and Hyundai together can achieve in terms of electrification technology, what are the kind of performance figures that they can achieve, what are the kind of range that they can achieve, what is the kind of packaging they can achieve with their vehicles. And most of it will filter down to the more mass market vehicles that will come from the brand starting next year. So essentially, this is a halo product. Yes, that is why it's restricted to only 100 units. It's not a mass market. Even Kia knows that not a lot of Indians are going to buy it. That is why they've restricted it to only 100 units. But it's a good direction that they're showing us on what to expect from the brand, from both the Korean brands by 2023.
Rohit, since you mentioned the
Neil,
Ionic,
Neil,
Dilip
Neil,
actually asked
I have
this as
another
well.
answer for you also. If you think there is, I mean, if you think this is a user discussion, I'll give you 5 minutes. Come back to us with the discussion that we can, we can engage in. Okay, the floor is yours. Come back to us. We'll get into a discussion with whatever points, with whatever subject you want to get onto.
Yeah,
Just keep it
why not?
automotive.
Yes. So anyway, since you were talking about the Ionic as well, Dilip also wanted to know whether the Ionic is coming down to India, and I believe that car too has the vehicle to load function, right? But
It's exactly the same car. It's just there's
It's
one
the same
that's
car.
Hyundai and one that's Kia, and they're absolutely the same platform. They're absolutely the same car, different body styles, or rather different styling for that matter. But everything else is the same, and it'll have all the same similar features. And the Ionic will be launched in India by the end of the year.
okay, and Dilip has one more question. Any thoughts on Mahindra joining hands with Volkswagen for battery tech affecting Tata Motors, because Tata EVs are kind of ruling the market? Will Mahindra make a dent in their share percentage?
Well, for Mahindra to make a dent in anything that Tata Motors is doing at that point in time, they have to start doing it. I mean, you can only win the race if you finish the race, kind of a situation. But Mahindra needs to start racing first of all before they can actually create any impact for that matter. They don't have any EVs in the country as of now, worth talking about also for that matter. Anything that Tata Motors has to get disturbed about, I don't see. They're just still so behind the curve at this point in time. I mean, they really need to do something to catch up to the market and where it's going, especially in this space, because I mean, both Tata, not just Mahindra, even Maruti for that matter. And I do believe that if they aren't able to do this within the next year, probably at two at the most, and not repurposed, electric vehicles, but pure EVs for that matter, they're going to have a tough time going ahead as well. Tata Motors is already there. They've already announced plans. They've already showcased what they're going to be doing in the pure EV space also for that matter. Then when I say pure EV, these are entirely new platforms for the electric vehicle space alone. That makes it, that definitely puts Tata Motors on a completely different level. And will Mahindra can certainly catch up to them, but it's going to take Mahindra a lot longer for that matter. The other thing is Mahindra's associations, and this is my other large worry, is that Mahindra's associations haven't really lasted very long. If you look at the history behind these, and whatever tie-ups they've had in the country, they've really not worked out for very long. They've all come burnt out and gone away. And I'm not entirely sure what kind of what kind of an advantage will this association Volkswagen for battery tech hold for Mahindra in the long run. I think it's Mahindra should certainly be investing in their own. Of course, they're doing that themselves. They are working. There is a fair amount of R&D that is happening, that's taking place at Mahindra's R&D centers on building their own, developing their own batteries and their own technology for electrification. But the deal with Volkswagen will of course give them that boost that they require, which is great. But I do hope this association carries on for very long. Not too recent, of course. One of the more recent associations didn't turn out too well. So we'll just have to wait and watch how this entire JV kind of progresses.
All right, Schaffmeister wants to know, looking at the current state of electricity generation and supply across the country, do you think we are ready to transition to EVs, given it would put even more load on the grid?
Well, this is the cardinal $1 million question that everybody has in their minds, and this is globally. All right, and this has happened. This has taken place all across the world. This is not just unique to India or something of that sort, Sharkmaster. In most countries, there was always this balance that was being brought about as to how many EVs will a manufacturer offer, and then how much of power or infrastructure will governments be able to provide them with to ensure that this transition to electrification is seamless. And so far, no one's winning that battle. All right. Most of the automotive industry has stepped up, has put out vehicles over there, and are selling more and more. But the infrastructure still isn't up to the levels needed to support electrification. Okay. This is going to be a problem in India as well. I remember early on, and this is from just before pandemic as well, where a lot of conversation happened. Government issued statements and came out, beating the box, shouting on the rooftops as usual. We want the automotive industry to move to electrification, bring out electric cars, start selling them in the country, manufacture them here. What are you all doing? X, Y, Z, Falana, Dinka. All that happened. Today, we don't have an electrification grid to support the cars that are there currently. Right? If you buy an electric car, you're going to be using it inside urban areas. It is not feasible, at least comfortably right now, to drive it, let's say, from Bombay to Pune and back again. You are going to have to look for charging stations where you can charge your car and then come back to Pune. Perhaps along the way, you will still want to charge somewhere along the expressway and then come back, reach Bombay. Similarly, between Delhi and Chandigarh. Now, between Delhi and Chandigarh, for instance, people make it a point of stopping at Karnal. They've got Karnal as a facility. But these are just a few examples. We need a lot more. This, let me take again Delhi and Chandigarh as an example. Karnal effectively works for one car, at the most two, if you're running on two different systems. Karnal does not have two CCS2 guns. It's got one CCS2 and one Chadmo. So your car has to be running on two different systems for that matter, or has to be able to accept two different systems. That's one challenge. If not, only one car can charge at a time, and depending on the state of your or other the facility that your car provides, you can charge it fast or not. All that will again account for the amount of time you spend over there, and subsequently, if more people come up, you'll have a lot more issues. Let's put intercity travel aside, and let's keep within the city itself. We already face problems, and I've said this often enough. We face problems where we've reached charging stations and there are other cars charging, and we've just been waiting in queue for charge. And this has delayed our shoots, this has delayed our tests, this has delayed everything. And we are just one example. There are so many of these around. So while the cars are out in the market, and there are more coming, significantly more, several more, the grid is not there to support electrification at this moment. We need, and global studies have told us and shown us that what we need is a massive array of fast charging systems spread perhaps every 50 kilometers in any direction. So you can imagine the number of chargers that are required in this country, and we are still nowhere close to that. Then there is a question of power being supplied to those grids. If Gurgaon runs today on diesel generators, where is the power going to come from? So all of these are challenges. Now I think it's up to the government to step up, provide that infrastructure, make sure there is enough of power and adequate power distributed across the country. Even today, I was just talking to Rohit yesterday. Rohit is, you know what, but the power just come back on. It's Thursday. And I was like, shit, Pune is still going through that whole phase that I went through almost a decade and a half ago. We used to have Tuesdays and Thursdays. There was no power in the city. That still exists today.
Is Bert frozen?
Yeah,
I'm back again.
No.
25 years later, we are still having the same problems. I mean, what has been sorted out? What has been done? Governments can blame each other, pass the buck from here to there. You didn't do this, you didn't do this. At this point in time, when it is your time, what are you doing? And I don't see anything happening. I don't see at least adequate happening for the electrification transition to happen seamlessly, for more and more people to start adopting EVs. EVs are not just about urban usage at this point in time. For a lot of people, it's also commuting is also about commuting between cities, between states. How many thousands of people do this every single day? So this is something that needs to be addressed significantly and on a war footing if we want to make this transition to EVs faster.
Okay. Let's take a couple of other questions as well. Rohit, Vishnu Desai wants to know, are there any new hot hatches coming in the near future with Polo's farewell? What car can an enthusiast buy in the budget of 15 lakh rupees?
Well, 15 lakh rupees doesn't really get you a hot hatch anymore. I mean, it's still warm hatches out there. The i20 N line is around that price right now. So if you consider that to be a warm enough or a hot enough hatch, I think that's the only thing that you can look at the moment. I don't see anything else really on the horizon. Maybe if Honda brings the Jazz hybrid with the kind of performance that we've seen with the City hybrid, I have some hopes from the Jazz hybrid, especially to go up against the i20 N line. There have been some reports of the Swift Sport coming to India. I don't completely agree with those reports because looking at the test plates that the test mules that were spotted are running, I'm guessing it's not something that Maruti or Toyota are testing here. It is something that some ancillary manufacturer is testing, and that's why the Swift Sport is here. So I'm not very sure if Maruti is really looking at the Swift Sport at the moment, but given the success of the Hyundai i20 N line, let's hope Maruti also is considering that car. But yeah, like I said, at the moment it's only the N line, and honestly, I've been living with that car for some time, and I'm increasingly liking it over the outgoing Polo. The Polo is still the slightly stiffer, the slightly firmer car, the slightly sportier car in terms of its driving dynamics. But as an overall package, I think the N line is more current, it's more relevant. It has all the creature comforts that you need. And comparing to what we have seen from Hyundai's in the past, I think the N line is a terrific package. It's a lovely, lovely little, warm hatch, as I like to call it. And I just feel like, one of those college boy racers again, driving that car in the crowded environment of Pune. I completely love it. And if you haven't driven it already, definitely do take a test drive and see if it fits your definition of a warm or a hot hatch under 15 lakh rupees. Let us know what you think.
One more question, Rohit. Nipun Sharma wants to know, is Toyota never bringing the Corolla back, and also the Honda Civic new generation?
Well, you have sort of put the question and answered it yourself. SUVs are all the rage right now. They have completely taken over the sedan segments. We have seen some bit of sedan action in the last few weeks. The C class coming in, and of course the Slavia, the Virtus, etc. But yeah, higher up in that order, nothing's really selling. I'm sure the Octavia also isn't enjoying the kind of numbers that the brand did at one point of time. Of course, it is one of the highest selling cars in that segment, but that segment itself is sort of dead. And looking at how conservative Honda or Toyota are, or how conservative the Japs are in regard to the market, I don't think they will want to bring those vehicles here, considering the kind of meager numbers that they're going to achieve. The Civic was a lovely car, but we all saw what happened with it. No, I did not have many takers, despite the way it looked, despite the kind of features it had. Even the Yaris that you saw, a lot of market research showed Toyota that there is a lot of scope for the Yaris in the Indian market, but that product just turned out to be a big failure for the brand. Same with the Etios as well. It took off very well in the fleet segment, but in the passenger segment, it's not really done well. So sedans are slowly dying out. In the luxury space, the sedans still command a bit of market. That is why you'll see that Mercedes, BMW, Audi is still doing quite well with the sedans, even with the kind of capable SUVs or crossovers that they have in the portfolio. But lower down the order, I think sedans are completely losing it. No one wants a sedan anymore. People want the practicality that a crossover or an SUV offers, especially on our kind of road conditions. So sedans, I don't think the Corolla or the Civic is going to come back.
All right. Bert Yoboxy says, even though all cars are sold are BS6, he cannot see BS6 fuel pumps in his city in Hyderabad. He's worried about BS4 fuel in a new BS6 car. What are the long-term effects of this on the engine as well as the exhaust?
Yeah, Boxy, I think you need to just go and check once again. Of course, yes, this whole shift towards BS6 fuels and fuel stations, of course, stocking BS6 fuel was supposed to have happened a long time ago. I'm a little surprised that it is not available because Hyderabad is a fairly large city, so there should be BS6 fuel available in that city, not BS4 fuel. That shouldn't be allowed to be honest, simply because your cars will not run optimally. They will still emit a lot more pollution. That's one. Second, long-term effects of this, there aren't too many long-term effects, to be honest. I mean, it is a really, really long-term effect that we're looking at on the engine and the exhaust system. Hundreds of thousands of kilometers later, you may see some effects and some problems with using the older type fuel on the newer type engines and systems. But yeah, what I'm quite surprised that at this point in time, I mean, it's been almost over a year and a half that this transition has been, being put into place. So I'm surprised that you're saying there's still, BS4 fuel being offered in your city.
Rohit, Anjuraj says that Skoda and Volkswagen's their sudden plan to change infotainment system from all the latest models to small system and price hike, is that a good move by them? He says people feel cheated after booking. Chip shortage, after all, is not a new issue.
I completely agree with you, Anjuraj. I think Volkswagen and Skoda should have planned better, especially the chip shortage has been easing out now. That concern has been easing out for a lot of manufacturers, and after taking so long testing these vehicles and then coming to the market with the whole India 2.0 strategy, I think they should have calculated better. The kind of issues that they've had and making those recalls, changing stuff in the car. Now also making changes to the feature list. What we have driven, what we have reviewed is something else compared to what the current generation customer is going to be buying out on the road. So I think it's bound for customers to feel cheated. I completely agree that yes, chip shortage or other supply concerns could have led to this, but they should have calculated better. They are not new to the game. They are not new to this business, and as a group, one of the largest groups in the world, they certainly should have planned better, especially when these are, do or die products for them. They should have planned better and gone to the market with a more convincing package. Not this is, in my books at least, not acceptable.
But Dilip Kumar wants to know why have Toyota increased the price of the latest Fortuner? Why is it so heavy? Because it neither is as tech savvy as the Gloster or as immense as the Endeavour, just cosmetic updates. Do you think that 55 lakh rupees is worth the price?
Well, 55 lakhs is certainly very steep for a Fortuner today, to be honest. It's extremely steep. I remember the days when the Fortuner was still available at 25, 30 and thereabouts in its early, first earlier generation. And even then it was expensive, but 55 lakhs, yes, sounds like a lot of money. But the fact of the matter is that it's not just the Fortuner, almost everything else in the market also has gotten more expensive because input costs, cost of steel, inflation, everything has driven prices up considerably. Even the rise in fuel prices, for that matter, has driven everything up considerably. And that's essentially where prices have, slowly. We haven't really noticed this, but and most manufacturers haven't kind of come out and announced that, oh, we are hiking our prices by so much. And this very few of them have done that. But most manufacturers have chosen to kind of slowly raise prices over a period of time, and that's essentially what we are seeing. So yes, the pricing is heavy, like you said. So it is genuinely heavy. But at the end of the day, what you get in it is epic. I would say legendary build quality and reliability. You get that Toyota badge is definitely carries a fair amount of premium with it. It's nothing like the Gloucester, let me tell you that. It's certainly a lot more reliable, a lot better than the Gloucester. Is it as good as the Endeavour? Well, not really. I'm more inclined to say that I enjoyed driving the Endeavour around a lot more, simply because of the Endeavour's on-road dynamics and the way it behaved. But keep in mind that Toyota, the Fortuner, is one of the last of the body-on-frame platforms. These platforms don't exist, and these are expensive platforms to engineer. These are costly, and they're complicated as well, for that matter. There's a little few complications for them to be, to give that kind of stiffness, rigidity, and strength, because they're serving in off-road conditions, is expensive work. So is it worth 55 lakhs? I don't think so, but I don't think we have a choice around that also, simply because there are so many factors that are affecting the price at this point in time.
Okay, we'll come back to the questions in just a bit, but we'll run through the news first. There's still a story that we want to play for you. The biggest news this week, of course, is the BMW i4, which has launched. It's BMW's first EV for India. It has surprised us with a price tag of 69.90 lakh rupees. That's way more affordable than the other premium badged EV sold in the country today, even though it does not directly compare with any of them. But what's significant is it claims 590 kilometers of the WLTP driving range, more than any car sold in the country today. Tuhin attended the launch, and he's got more details.
BMW India may have been late to the EV party, but it's made up for it in more ways than one. And in the last 6 months, it's launched the iX, the Mini Electric, and now this, the BMW i4. Now, everything else aside, the i4 is the longest range EV you can buy in the country, with 590 kilometers as per the WLTP. Now, the BMW i4 is based on the 4 Series Grand Coupe, which in itself is the coupe version of the 3 Series that you already have in India. So it looks largely similar to its combustion engine cousin. Of course, you have the front with a largely blanked out fascia, and of course you can't forget this massive grille which has generated a lot of controversy, so you can pick what you want to say about it right in the comments. Now, in the way the i4 looks is of course largely similar to the 4 Series Grand Coupe. So you have this more, stretched out headlamp. You notice that the bodywork is a bit more shapely than say the 3 Series, and you have this M badging here with these inlets which again are there to increase aero efficiency. And the wheels especially, they're still aero efficient wheels. They're a good 18-inch size, but you notice how cleanly they're done. You almost don't realize that they are those aero efficient wheels. Now, another change in the interest of aerodynamic efficiency are these door handles, which if anything look quite old fashioned in their pull type operation. Of course, this being the Grand Coupe derived from it, you have these frameless doors. Moving on, you have this coupe-ish roofline as you would expect, and the lighting again is a bit more flashed out. It's a bit more sort of flowing than in the 3 Series with these L-shaped highlights. Now coming to the boot, it's a hatch really, and as you can see there's quite a bit of space. Of course you have your subwoofer here. Yeah, and again at the back you don't have any exhaust. In place of this you have these quite sporty looking diffusers with this greyish kind of finish to it, which looks quite premium and sporty. Now again, being based on the 4 Series Grand Coupe, it's quite normal, nothing out of the ordinary here in terms of the way it looks. Of course, there are still quite some significant changes. The most apparent to which is this huge new curved display, which is part of the iDrive 8 infotainment system that BMW has been rolling out across its cars. You have this massive 14.9-inch, central screen with a completely different layout, which is quite similar to a smartphone, as is the case with most of these new infotainments. As a result of which, you've lost, those very useful panel of buttons that used to be here. Still have a manual knob for the volume and some buttons, but it's a much more simplified look to the dashboard. But of course, the general layout, with these layers here is quite reminiscent of the current generation of BMWs. And like all of them, fit and finish is top notch, is of the pretty much the highest quality you can expect in this segment. Now, another significant change is these blue highlights, a blue start-stop button to signify it's an EV, as is the gear lever. And aside from the regular park, reverse, neutral and D, you now have B mode, which is
weight and process and reasoning by which they support their opinion, their possible bias in favor of
BMW India may have been late to the EV party, but it's made up for it in more ways than one. And in the last 6 months, it's launched the iX, the Mini Electric, and now this, the BMW i4. Now, everything else aside, the i4 is the longest range EV you can buy in the country with 590 kilometers as per the WLTP. Now, the BMW i4 is based on the 4 Series Grand Coupe, which in itself is the coupe version of the 3 Series that you already have in India. So it looks largely similar to its combustion engine cousin. Of course, you have the front with a largely blanked out fascia, and of course you can't forget this massive grille which has generated a lot of controversy, so you can pick what you want to say about it right in the comments. Now, in the way the i4 looks is of course largely similar to the 4 Series Grand Coupe. So you have this more, stretched out headlamp. You notice that the bodywork is a bit more shapely than say the 3 Series, and you have this M badging here with these inlets which again are there to increase aero efficiency. And the wheels especially, they're still aero efficient wheels. They're a good 18-inch size, but you notice how cleanly they're done. You almost don't realize that they are those aero efficient wheels. Now, another change in the interest of aerodynamic efficiency are these door handles, which if anything look quite old fashioned in their pull type operation. Of course, this being the Grand Coupe derived from it, you have these frameless doors. Moving on, you have this coupe-ish roofline as you would expect, and the lighting again is a bit more flashed out. It's a bit more sort of flowing than in the 3 Series with these L-shaped highlights. Now coming to the boot, it's a hatch really, and as you can see there's quite a bit of space. Of course you have your subwoofer here. Yeah, and again at the back you don't have any exhaust. In place of this you have these quite sporty looking diffusers with this greyish kind of finish to it, which looks quite premium and sporty. Now again, being based on the 4 Series Grand Coupe, it's quite normal, nothing out of the ordinary here in terms of the way it looks. Of course, there are still quite some significant changes. The most apparent of which is this huge new curved display, which is part of the iDrive 8 infotainment system that BMW has been rolling out across its cars. So you have this massive 14.9-inch, central screen with a completely different layout, which is quite similar to a smartphone, as is the case with most of these new infotainments. As a result of which, you've lost, those very useful panel of buttons that used to be here. Still have a manual knob for the volume and some buttons, but it's a much more simplified look to the dashboard. But of course, the general layout, with these layers here is quite reminiscent of the current generation of BMWs. And like all of them, fit and finish is top notch, is of the pretty much the highest quality you can expect in this segment. Now, another significant change is these blue highlights, a blue start-stop button to signify it's an EV, as is the gear lever. And aside from the regular park, reverse, neutral and D, you now have B mode, which is the one-pedal driving mode. Yes, this car can one-pedal drive, and it produces a significant amount of regenerative force, like we've also noticed in the BMW electric. Now, from behind the wheel, it feels much the same, aside from, this blue bordering to the BMW propeller badge and a different sort of graphics for the driver's display. Now, we can't start it, so we can't exactly show you how it's different. And of course, you have these physical controls too for the iDrive. You have a decent amount of storage, say in the middle and here, but you will notice that unlike a born electric car, it's still very much like an IC engine car in which there's this wide central tunnel, and we'll show you that at the back also. The car you see here is fitted with the optional M styling pack, which adds the smart wheels and the sharper bumpers. Standard features are quite compelling and include wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, a 17-speaker Harman Kardon sound system, 3-zone climate control, ambient lighting, a power tailgate, and a large sunroof. Now you will notice that despite the shape, there's a reasonable amount of space here, which is pretty much similar to what you get in the 3 Series. But of course, there is some changes considering that this is an EV. First up, you sit in a slightly more knees-up position because the battery is placed underneath. And although the battery pack itself is a very slim 110 millimeters, it has sort of eaten into cabin space in this sense. Now again, you realize that the 4 Series isn't based on a ground-up EV architecture in terms of this central tunnel. It doesn't really need one, but it still has it. So it's not the most spacious for the third passenger, but even if you like sitting in the backseat, it seems like there's a decent amount of space here. And of course, you have a panoramic sunroof which opens sort of partially. So it's a decent car to be driven around in as well, at least in this very early impression. Like a regular BMW, the i4 still retains a perfect 50-50 weight distribution, despite the large 80.7 kWh battery. A single rear-driven motor puts out 340 PS and 430 Nm, which means the i4 can do 0 to 100 in 5.7 seconds. BMW says high-speed performance has been a focus. Now, as with most EVs you buy in India, you get this 11 kilowatt AC wall box charger with the BMW i4, which is also the maximum speed the i4 can charge at in AC current. Aside from this, BMW is also setting up DC fast chargers at 34 locations across India at mostly its dealerships, which will let you charge the BMW as well as any other car over there. Now the BMW i4 in this eDrive 40 variant is priced at Rs 69.90 lakh, which makes it not that more expensive than its IC engine rivals. So would you pick this over, say, a traditional sedan in the same segment? Let us know in the comments.
All right, guys, we have our lovely producer to thank for that great visual that appeared in the middle of the video, and then we had the video repeating because his laptop fell. And you cannot blame me for snacking a bit. It's the evening. I think everybody is snacking. Bert, you show yours. You're on mute, Bert.
But anyway,
So we didn't hear you, but you're on mute.
I'm not on mute any longer.
Unmute now.
Am I? Still? So yeah, I mean, this happened to all of us. I've been cup of tea, and of course I got some snacks somewhere. I know that. Yeah, here right next to me, I've got everything set up and kept ready for those three breaks. This is work from home, my friends, but it's all okay. It's all good. But the i4, let's come back to that. Very, very impressive car. And more than the car itself is the pricing, which I really don't know how BMW has cracked it. But for a car that's got that 80 kilowatt hour battery, that is just absolutely brilliant pricing. How I do believe, I also think that because this is not an entirely 100% ground up pure EV structure platform that they're working on, has enabled them to kind of cut costs or rather save costs in a lot of places. So I guess that's one of the reasons why they're able to get that pricing, so aggressive for that matter. But I'm now looking forward to driving that car and seeing this. I've seen, I was unable to go to Delhi when the drives, not drives, but these first experiential kind of few minutes that some of our colleagues in some other publications and other brands kind of got to an experience. It seems to be quite impressive, and it seems to be like any other BMW, and it can drift. So yes, expect to see that very shortly as well, as soon as we get our hands on the car for a longer, more comprehensive story. But yeah, I'll just wait for it. I'll just wait for it to come over to us.
But do we know how BMW have managed to price this under 1 crore rupees?
No, your guess is as good as mine.
Okay. We'll still run through the other bits of news and we'll come back to some of the questions. The best news that we've heard in a while is the slight relief in fuel prices, given the government has reduced the excise duty on gasoline by 8 rupees per litre and on diesel by 6 rupees per litre, thereby slashing petrol price by 9.5 rupees and diesel by 7 rupees. That means you're now paying 111 rupees per litre for petrol and 97.28 per litre for diesel if you're in Mumbai. Still pretty high, I would say. But while in the capital, petrol will cost you 95.91 lakh rupees per litre, and diesel is 89.67 per litre. We can thank oil companies for passing on the excise tax reduction rates to customers despite losing 13.08 rupees per litre on petrol and 24.9 rupees per litre on diesel due to holding rates. Moving on, Mumbai Traffic Police have announced they'll be charging pillion riders 500 rupee fine if caught without a helmet in the next 13 days. You shouldn't have to be penalized to realize your safety is of utmost importance, but it is the case in our country. So do follow the rules, wear a helmet. Now, Sun Fuel Electric, a Delhi-based EV charging manufacturer, has announced a new Express Miles electric vehicle highway charging service in India. The first of these chargers, which will allow charging speeds of up to 120 kilowatt, will be put on the Kalka-Shimla route next month. It will be capable of charging a wide range of electric models. For starters, the high-end electric vehicles like the Mercedes EQC, BMW i4, e-tron, I-Pace, and now even the Kia EV6 at the fastest feasible charging rate specified by the manufacturer, it will be possible. The 120 kilowatt supercharger also works flawlessly with non-luxury EVs whose batteries have a lower charging rate. Now, Mercedes-Benz has teased an all-electric AMG concept car that gives us a peek into AMG driving performance's all-electric future. The planned electric sports vehicle is built on a completely specialized electric architecture that was created from ground up for a four-door coupe body style. In 2025, the vehicle is planned to go into production, and according to Mercedes AMG, the AMG EA platform has a high-performance, high-voltage battery and breakthrough powertrain technology. And moving over to you, Rohit, for the two-wheeler news.
Sure. So on that AMG note, I think I also like what Mercedes-Benz showed with the EQG, but more on that later. Let's talk about the motorcycle news. The KTM RC390 has been launched in the country. In fact, we are going to be riding that motorcycle very soon. We've already seen this design with the RC200 is the updated design. The vehicle was launched internationally a little while back, and now it finally comes to India. It's priced at 3.14 lakh rupees. The biggest change, of course, is that design that you see on the screen. It's got that single piece headlamp with the DRLs on the side, and it's the whole idea of this design is to basically give it better aerodynamics and give it a better design overall compared to the outgoing RC. Now, whether that design is better or not, you guys decide. Let us know what you think about this particular design. It also has a bolt-on subframe, and they have also made changes to the visor, changes to the overall ergonomics to make it a little bit more easy when you're out on the road, and yet not lose that sharp character when you're riding on the track. How all of that comes together, how does the updates to the engine affect the performance, is something that we are going to test very soon. So stay tuned to Overdrive for that review. It should be out in the second week of June. The second news is the Hero Splendor Plus X Tech, which has been launched at the price of rupees 72,900 ex showroom. It essentially gets a new LED DRL signature. It has new graphics, the black alloys, and more importantly, it gets Bluetooth connectivity, which Hero touts is the segment first. It will essentially give you call and message alerts on the instrumentation directly. The instrumentation will also give you readouts for the real-time fuel efficiency, 2 trip readings, low fuel indicator, etc. In terms of the safety kit, it has a side stand alert, and it also has a side stand engine cutoff. Mechanically, the X-Tech variant remains similar to the standard variant, and like I said, the pricing is going to be 72,900 ex showroom. And the third bit of news, which I'm excited about and not so excited about, is the Triumph Tiger 1200, because unfortunately I missed the ride, and my colleague Chris had gone for it. Anis also went for it. Both of them had a gala of a time, riding that motorcycle up in the mountains. And Triumph is going to town, not hiding the fact that they are stabbing BMW in the heart with this new Tiger 1200. So one look will essentially tell you two things. It looks like the Tiger 900 in a lot of ways, and it looks much, much, much lighter than the outgoing Tiger 1200. So essentially, there are two lines to this motorcycle now. One is the slightly lighter, the slightly more road-focused or off-road focused variant, but a slightly lighter variant that will take on the BMW GS. And then there is the Explorer line, which will essentially take on the BMW GSA. They essentially have this model line from BMW in its crosshair. It's got the shaft drive, it's got a much lighter frame, it's got a torquier engine, it's got a much better power delivery as well, is what Chris tells me. And the most important bit, the pricing. It manages to undercut both the BMW GS variants by a significant margin. Now, how does all of this come together? How does the market react to all of this is something that I'm eager to find out. But I'm more eager to find out, does it really behave better than the BMW GS? So that's something that we will hopefully answer soon. We are waiting for the media bikes to arrive to Overdrive. Once they are available to us, we will obviously put it through a much longer test than what Chris managed. It was just a day of riding that he had to do with all the variants. And I think he's still done a phenomenal job bringing to you the story. So if you haven't checked it out already, head over to youtube.com/odmag after this live session is over and take a look at everything he has to say about the new Tiger 1200. That's all that we have from the motorcycle news for this week. Back to you, Sohini.
You were talking about the EQG. You wanted to say something about the EQG?
Yes, I saw. I think Bert wants to say something.
Yeah, sorry,
I
I've got a
right
question
up
for you
his alley.
guys. Rohit. Yeah, I was on mute. Okay, now, great that Tiger, the 1200 Explorer is going after the GS. But shouldn't we forget, should we kind of, keep in the back of the mind that Harley Davidson is the one that is kind of just shot up to the head of this whole pack. They've come out of nowhere with the Pan America, and they've just blown everybody else into their dust. And that's just based on the Pan America numbers, for that matter. They've kind of gone ahead and now the number one premium motorcycle maker in the country, ahead of Triumph, ahead of BMW. So all of this is now a moot point. So all of the noise and the attention that BMW used to enjoy, I'm actually questioning as to what has happened. Where is this whole transition? Where is this whole shift coming from suddenly in this whole power structure between these 3 or 4 manufacturers?
Right. Unfortunately, I've not ridden that motorcycle yet. Again, it was Chris who enjoyed that motorcycle. So, but yes, I mean, the way that Harley Davidson has managed to price that motorcycle, and the kind of, how do I put it, the fan base that Harley Davidson has in the country at the moment. It was we've at one point we've been saying that the cruiser market has been dying, and even the customers
The
who are
Sportster has came back
loyal
as
to the
well.
brand, they also somewhere know that they can't ignore the convenience or the practicality that an ADV offers. But at the same time, probably they never wanted to shift to any other brand, being so loyal to Harley Davidson. And now Harley Davidson has sort of capitalized on that critical mass, and they have launched the product which will make sense to its legacy customers. And now they have that model to look forward to. And I think a lot of people are adopting that model. A lot of people have accepted that model. And I remember, in fact, when Harley Davidson sent us the Sportster 1200, if I'm not wrong, and the 1250, the Sportster 1250 and the Pan America 1250. Both bikes were built to the same customer. So, you have those kind of legal fans of the brand still. And I think that has sort of catapulted them right to the number one position again, despite all the challenges that they faced for the last 2-3 years. And having
Yeah,
hero support
I
also
mean,
helps, is
I think,
what I think.
for that matter, I mean, today Harley Davidson is literally a one motorcycle brand, which is the Pan America. And
True,
while it does have
true.
an entire range of cruisers, they're not doing the kind of numbers that one would expect of them in this country at this point in time. So from whatever I saw in the press release, also it was just the Sportster S and of course the Pan America that was kind of carrying this brand forward. And to counter that, you look at BMW and you look at Triumph, and they are nowhere in the picture. And this includes BMW having a 310, a more
Yeah,
volume
that's right.
motorcycle as well, which they're just not able to push through. So I'm asking the question: did you buy the right motorcycle or not?
Well, of course I did. Of course I did. If sales figures would define the capability of a vehicle, well, I
Well, no,
think
it doesn't. It definitely does not define the capability of a vehicle, but there is certainly something to be said about why and how people are effectively, find a motorcycle of that sort appealing. Uh,
right.
and despite all of our best expert, well-informed, well-judged opinions, sometimes the other people may not be looking at everything that we may not be looking at from the perspective that we look at motorcycles or products
True.
with, and they have a completely different opinion as to what appeals to them and why would they want to buy it. Just the fact that Harley Davidson is doing as well as, and they're significantly ahead of the competition. I just hope that if they're able to maintain this momentum, it would be fantastic. But it definitely teaches us, or at least shows us a few things that I think now BMW and Triumph, for that matter, have to focus their attention on how to get market share away from Harley Davidson, not the fight amongst themselves, not between Triumph or BMW for that matter. They have now got to look at saying there's a third competitor, and well, they've got a bigger agenda. I think Rohit's son wants to join the show as well, doesn't he?
Yes, he sometimes does. Uh,
He has an opinion as well.
he has an opinion
Why
on
should you
everything.
not let him?
I think even he prefers the BMW to the Harley Davidson. In fact,
I
very
don't think
recently,
so. I don't think so, Mr. Pradkar. I think he's trying to
no,
counter
I
it
will.
purely.
In fact, no, I will. In fact, tell you one thing that happened recently when we were in Munnar for one of the shoots that we recently did. That story will be up on OVERDRIVE very soon. But my son was with me, and he is all of 7 months old, and he usually responds to engine sounds. That is something that I like in this generation where these guys will grow up to drive EVs. I think he still loves engine sounds. He responds to engine sounds. But there was this Street 750. Which was very close to where we were staying in Munnar. And every time the Street 750 would go up and down the street, this guy would start crying. That was the only sound he did not like. So I think, yeah, he doesn't like Harley Davidsons. So it's safe to say that I think he'll like my BMW more when he grows
I
up.
don't think anyone likes the Street 750, but that's a different story entirely.
I think that's a motorcycle that even Harley Davidson would want to forget
Does
about.
not like me. Yeah.
But I think there is a story right here. There's the new Tiger 1200. There is the updated 1250. There is the Harley Davidson. I think there's only one way to find out if the Harley Davidson deserves the
Time
kind
to
of
head out
numbers that
to
it's
the
got.
hills.
Let's go
Isn't
and
it?
take these motorcycles to the hills. Let's start planning.
Yes. We are planning. We're planning. We will go there. We will do this, and we will have some fun and bring you yet another epic story very, very soon.
Talking about heading to the hills, Bert, and that too on a two-wheeler, maybe you want to shed some light on this next question and your situation. Where is the map of India? Where are you today, Bert?
So, okay, let me show you where I am today. To do that, I need to do something a little. Where I am today is at home, and essentially that is what is happening to me today. So, I had a minor accident a few days ago, and I say minor because I was just fortunate enough not to have broken my bones and just had a deep gash 4 stitches, and that's about it. But the way it came about was I was riding into my apartment. I'd just come from outside and I was just heading back to my apartment. And I was passing by another car which had just parked, and the driver got out of the car without looking behind him and happened to open the door straight onto my right leg. So it was such an instantaneous thing that I didn't notice what happened, and neither did he realize what happened as well. But yeah, the effects you're seeing, and that is why I'm here this weekend at home, and there is no map of India right behind me. But next week, the map will be back again in place, guys.
Okay. Here's one more interesting question from Schaffmeister. He says he recently went on a 350-kilometer drive in his car and found himself with aching neck and shoulder muscles. How do you find the right driving position for long distance comfort?
Well, technically, there isn't a right position or an ideal position. You kind of discover this over time as you're driving. You kind of figure this out, and you just keep changing. The only thing I can say is just don't keep sitting and driving for too long, for too many hours. Take a break, stop, get out, stretch. Just grab a cup of tea, bathroom break, whatever it is you have to do. Just get your bones realigned and then back into that seat if you're driving, and especially if you're driving for 12 hours, 14 hours, or longer for that matter. So just keep doing that. Just keep getting out of your seat. There isn't an ideal or the perfect position. No one will ever find that perfect position for themselves. It's a matter of trial and error. You will be close to where you are, where you would want to be. But the only way to kind of counter backaches over long, and we do suffer from all of us in the team suffer from that, is just stop, get out, stretch, walk around a little bit, let your muscles relax, and then get back in the driving position.
Rohit, Prabhan wants to know which is the better 7-seater SUV, the XUV 700 or the Safari?
To live with, I'm going to hold on to that last bit. To live with, unfortunately, I can't tell you that way because both Tata and Mahindra refuse to give us long-term vehicles. So we haven't really lived with these two vehicles to be able to tell you which is the better vehicle to live with. But which is the better car, from our standpoint, is something that you should check on youtube.com/odmag. Just search for XUV 700 versus Safari. We have a very detailed story done by my colleague Simran Rastogi. He has gone through all the aspects of the vehicles, including features, design, comfort, the practicality. So do take a look at that, and you will have your answer right there. Because that will help you identify, because the way in which we do our comparison stories, we have different parameters that we score these vehicles on. So whatever parameters or whatever particular criteria is important to you, you will be able to see which one scores better, and then you can make a more informed buying decision if that's what you're looking at.
Now, this seems like a dream question today. So, Sudesh wants to know, India needs affordable EV cars made in India priced at 6 to 10 lakh rupees. Will we see that day when we will see an EV car priced at 6 to 10 lakh rupees?
Possibly, but it's a very, very tough situation. It's a very, very challenging situation to be in. What we have to remember is that manufacturers can offer an EV today in that 6 to 10 lakh rupee bracket as well. But then you're looking at cars that will give you a range of about 100, 120 kilometers WLTP, which means that range will come down to 80 kilometers or even lesser. What scooters are offering you. So, you really question yourself whether on a full charge, does that car become then a practical solution for anybody? I don't know. So it's going to take some time, maybe a long time for that matter, for cars to come out in this price bracket. Maruti has already indicated that's an extremely tough and challenging situation for them as well. To make a car, affordable, small car, electrified, it's extremely tough. And unless battery prices come down, and that is not going to happen anytime soon, it is a pipe dream at this point in time. It is a pipe dream.
Okay, Rohit, Magic Mania wants to know, is the S-Cross a worthy buy right now? He wants you to recommend a high-seating auto-transmission SUV up to 20 lakh rupees.
Well, if you want a high-seating vehicle, the S-Cross is clearly not something that you should look at. It's a proper crossover. It's ideally targeted at those who want a more car-like driving feel with an increased ground clearance when you compare it to a hatchback or a sedan. So that is what the S-Cross is, and that's what we've repeatedly said in our reviews as well. So if you want that high seating, you'll have to look at something like a Creta. You'll have to look at something like the Thar, or maybe the XUV 700. And you have variants from all these vehicles that are around the 20 lakh rupee mark as well. My choice would be the Creta. I think it is one of the best all-rounders in that 20 lakh rupees zone at the moment. Or you could also look at the Kia Seltos if that design appeals to you more than the Creta. But I think that's the perfect all-rounder in terms of the kind of features it offers, the driving position, the ground clearance, and the overall reliability of the product. So Creta would be my choice. Considering you want a high seating. Otherwise, the S-Cross is a perfectly nice car. I particularly like that car quite a bit, but it doesn't give you that high seating that you're looking for.
He also wants to know whether, what's a small automatic car just for the city that you would recommend.
Best small automatic for city drive only. I think the current Celerio, I think it's quite a nice package for what they've managed. And that AMT works quite well. You could look at that, or if you want to stretch a little bit more, I think you could look at the Swift. The Swift is another nice vehicle, and up to 15 lakh rupees, you could look at the i20 N line. So across different price brackets, I think the Celerio, the Swift, and the i20 N line are my choices.
I'll give you a few more choices. I think there is also the Quid. Let's not forget that. That's one good choice over there. Renault. And there is also the i10, the Neos. Good choices. But keep in mind, all of these cars today don't use torque converters. They're all AMTs. What you're going to get is an AMT. So be prepared for that. So that's the small city car that you would want, small automatics. All of them are going to be AMTs.
All right. One last question. When can we expect the Citroën C3?
Well, I think Bert logged out. Yeah, so the C3 is expected to launch sometime in June. You can stay tuned to Overdrive. We are going to be driving that car in the first week of June. The second week of June is when our review of the vehicle will be out. And we have been told that around the end of June, the third or the fourth week of June is when they will announce pricing for the C3. So around July, August is when the delivery should start. They are targeting the festive season, the Indian festive season for the launch of this car and to deliver this car, of course. So I hope that answers it for you.
All right. So that's about it for this week. But let's take a quick look at the teaser of what we have on the show for you this week, tomorrow at 1 p.m. and Sunday 12:30 and 8 p.m.
So while the world famous Tesla is still testing the Model 3, the Model Y for the Indian market, their Korean rival is already here. Say hello to the Kia EV6.
Now this is the new generation Triumph Tiger 1200. This motorcycle which you see before me is the GT Pro variant, and as its name suggests, this is the more road-focused motorcycle, whereas the Rally, which we'll be riding later on in the day, as its name suggests, is the more off-road-centric motorcycle.
Do you hear that? That's the sound that the quietest Lexus currently available makes. This is the Lexus UX300E. It's Lexus's first all-electric car, and it's also its most exclusive right now in India because it's not yet on sale.
The EV6 on TV as well. So do tune in tomorrow. We'll catch everyone next week then.
All right. See you guys. Have a nice weekend.
See you guys. Take care.
See you guys.
Ride safe.
Bye.
And definitely do watch Top Gun.